My situation was actually the housing authority. It wasn't a landlord. The housing authority raised my rent by $600. Yes, 7 days after rent was due, they sent a letter to the property manager saying that they weren't going to pay $300 that they had agreed to pay. And then I didn't pay my utilities to be able to come up with that money for my rent, because now I had late fees and rent due because they told me 7 days after rent was due. So I didn't pay my utilities, and instead I paid my rent. And then I sent my kids to Florida with my family so I could work 70 hours in 1 week to come up with the money that I didn't pay on my utilities. And that week was July 26th of last year. And I personally got a letter, not my property manager this time. I got a letter saying starting in August, they would only be paying $80 of my rent. So they went from paying about $680 to $80. So now I had 4 days till rent was due again. And that month it would be $600 more than I'd ever even imagined. And so I told the housing authority that I went and looked at the federal guidelines for the housing authority, and they have to give you 30 days notice before they change your rent. So technically, since they didn't tell me till July 7th, they couldn't have changed my rent till September 1st. Right. And I showed them my paperwork, and their response was, well, you can get a lawyer or you can talk to city council. Now, what city council could do for me, I don't know. Mm-hmm. Like, what can they do? I mean, I guess we could file to revoke the licenses of, I don't know. But right to counsel would have gotten me what I needed, and I wouldn't have had to go back to an abusive relationship that I knew at that time I was going back to in order to pay my rent, despite the fact that I would be abused. Like, I knew that going in, but it was my only option. So when we talk about COVID-19 and how that affects people, like, people are going into situations not because they want to, but they have no choice. And that's been happening since before. I was watching a woman's child, her third grader, for before and after school care, because she told me that she went back to her youngest child's father to be able to get before and after school care for her child because she couldn't afford rent and child care. And she was being abused in that relationship. So while I was with my abuser, I was watching her children so she didn't have to be with her abuser because she had to choose between child care and rent. So COVID-19, like, yes, it's pulling all of us down, but nobody's been good. We haven't been good. We've been living in toxic places. We've been living in unhealthy homes. I've seen roofs fall, like, just falling in, and there is no rights. Like, we can make requests with healthy homes, but what does that do? Without right to counsel, it does, like, our rights don't matter. Without the Office of the Tenant Advocate, our rights don't matter. That's why we built the Office of the Tenant Advocate, because there is no power for the poor except people power. And I really think that the reason that tenants' rights have been eroded or were never there is because we haven't had right to counsel. You know, property is the way we build wealth.